From invisible to influential, the top 1% secrets to make anyone respect you instantly. Written and published by MindForge Audiobooks. Introduction. Respect is one of the most powerful forces in human life. It influences opportunities, relationships, leadership, success, and the way people respond to your presence. Deep down, almost everyone wants to be respected, valued, and taken seriously. Yet many people spend years chasing approval, seeking validation, and trying to impress others, only to discover that respect cannot be begged for, bought, or forced. The truth is that respect is not created by status, wealth, popularity, or external achievements alone. It is created by the way you carry yourself, the standards you live by, and the confidence you project into the world. People naturally respect those who respect themselves. The hidden cost of constantly seeking validation is that it gives other people control over your confidence. The more approval you need, the less power you possess. True influence begins when you stop chasing acceptance and start building self-respect. Throughout this audiobook, you will discover the psychology behind influence, confidence, emotional strength, boundaries, communication, and personal presence. You will learn why fearless people naturally command respect, and how you can become someone whose confidence, character, and actions speak louder than words. Because the moment you respect yourself, the world begins to see you differently. Chapter 1. Respect begins with how you see yourself. Most people believe respect is something that comes from other people. They believe respect is earned through achievements, status, wealth, titles, popularity, or influence. They spend years trying to impress others, hoping to gain approval, admiration, and recognition. Yet despite all their efforts, many still feel overlooked, undervalued, and disrespected. The reason is simple. Respect does not begin with other people. It begins with you. The way people treat you is often influenced by the way you treat yourself. Long before anyone decides how much respect to give you, you have already taught them how to see you through the way you see yourself. This is why respect begins with self-image. Self-image is the mental picture you carry about who you are. It is the collection of beliefs, assumptions, and expectations you hold about yourself. It influences how you speak, how you walk, how you make decisions, how you handle challenges, and how you allow others to treat you. Most people never consciously examine their self-image, yet it quietly shapes every area of their lives. If you see yourself as confident, capable, and valuable, your behavior naturally reflects those beliefs. If you see yourself as unworthy, inadequate, or inferior, your behavior reflects those beliefs as well. The world often responds to the energy you project. This is why self-image shapes social treatment. Imagine two people entering the same room. One person walks with confidence. Their posture is strong, their voice is calm. They do not seek permission to exist. They do not constantly worry about being judged. They appear comfortable in their own skin. The second person enters the same room, but immediately doubts themselves. They worry about what others think. They hesitate before speaking. They apologize unnecessarily. They seek approval before expressing opinions. Both individuals may possess similar abilities, yet people often respond to them differently. Why? Because confidence communicates value, and value attracts respect. This does not mean pretending to be superior. It means developing a healthy belief in your own worth. The psychology of self-respect begins here. Self-respect is the belief that you deserve dignity, fairness, and consideration simply because you are a human being. It is not arrogance. It is not ego. It is not believing you are better than others. Self-respect means recognizing your value without needing constant confirmation from the outside world. Unfortunately, many people never develop strong self-respect. Instead, they build their identity around external validation. They depend on praise to feel confident. They depend on approval to feel worthy. They depend on acceptance to feel secure. The problem with this approach is that it places your confidence in the hands of other people, and other people are unpredictable. their opinions change, their moods change, their expectations change. If your self-worth depends on their approval, your confidence becomes fragile. This is where insecurity begins, and insecurity often invites disrespect. Many people misunderstand why insecurity affects the way others treat them. The reason is not that people intentionally seek out insecurity. The reason is that insecurity influences behavior. An insecure person often struggles to set boundaries. They hesitate to express opinions. They tolerate disrespectful treatment. They avoid conflict at any cost. They constantly seek reassurance. Over time, these behaviors communicate something powerful. They communicate uncertainty, and uncertainty often weakens authority. Imagine someone constantly apologizing for things that require no apology. Imagine someone who never says what they truly think. Imagine someone who allows others to repeatedly cross their boundaries. Eventually, people begin treating them according to the standards they have accepted. This is why self-respect matters so much. When you respect yourself, you establish expectations. You communicate that your time matters, your energy matters, your values matter. Your voice matters. People may not always agree with you, but they are far more likely to respect you. One of the biggest differences between respected people and approval-seeking people is where they look for validation. This brings us to one of the most important distinctions in personal development: internal validation versus external approval. Most people spend years chasing external approval. They want everyone to like them, everyone to agree with them, everyone to admire them, everyone to approve of their decisions. The problem is that this goal is impossible. No matter who you are, someone will disagree with you, someone will misunderstand you, someone will criticize you, someone will dislike you. If your confidence depends on universal approval, you will spend your entire life disappointed. Respected individuals understand this. They focus on internal validation. Internal validation means your sense of worth comes from within. You know your values, you know your intentions, you know your standards, and you judge yourself according to those standards rather than constantly seeking permission from others. This creates freedom. You stop making decisions based solely on what others expect. You stop living for applause. You stop sacrificing authenticity for acceptance. Instead, you begin living according to principles, and principles create strength. Building a strong identity is essential to this process. Identity answers one important question: who are you when nobody is watching? Many people build identities based on circumstances: their job title, their social status, their achievements, their appearance. The problem is that circumstances change, jobs change, status changes. Achievements come and go. Appearances change over time. A strong identity is built on something deeper: values, character, integrity, discipline, resilience, honesty. These qualities remain stable regardless of circumstances. When your identity is built on these foundations, criticism becomes less threatening, failure becomes less devastating, rejection becomes less painful, because your sense of self is no longer dependent on temporary conditions. This creates confidence from within. True confidence is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It does not constantly seek attention. Real confidence is quiet, steady, grounded. It comes from knowing who you are. It comes from trusting yourself. It comes from recognizing your strengths while accepting your imperfections. Many people believe confidence appears after success. In reality, confidence often appears before success. People act confidently first, then success follows. The person who starts the business despite uncertainty builds confidence. The person who speaks despite fear builds confidence. The person who takes action despite doubt builds confidence. Confidence is not created by waiting. It is created by doing. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens confidence. Every challenge you face strengthens confidence. Every difficult conversation you handle strengthens confidence. Over time, your mind collects evidence that you are capable. That evidence becomes belief, and that belief becomes confidence. Ultimately, All of this leads to one powerful outcome. You become your own authority. Most people spend their lives allowing others to determine their value. They wait for approval before acting. They wait for permission before speaking. They wait for validation before believing in themselves. But respected individuals operate differently. They trust their judgment. They trust their values. They trust their ability to learn, adapt, and grow. This does not mean they ignore feedback. It means they do not surrender their identity to it. They listen carefully. They learn when necessary, but they remain anchored in who they are. This is what becoming your own authority means. You stop looking outside yourself for constant confirmation. You stop allowing every opinion to shape your self-image. You stop treating criticism as proof of inadequacy. Instead, you develop an inner foundation, a foundation built on self-respect, self-awareness, and self-trust. And that foundation changes everything. Because the moment you begin seeing yourself differently, the world begins responding differently. Not because you became someone new, but because you finally recognized the value that was already there. Respect starts long before anyone else gives it to you. It starts with the standards you set, the beliefs you hold, the identity you build, and the way you choose to see yourself every single day. Because when you respect yourself deeply, you no longer need to chase respect. You naturally become the kind of person who attracts it. Chapter 2. Stop seeking approval from everyone. One of the fastest ways to lose respect is to spend your life trying to earn it from everyone. At first, this may sound strange. Most people assume that being liked by everyone is a sign of success. They believe approval leads to acceptance, acceptance leads to influence, and influence leads to respect. But life teaches a different lesson. People who desperately seek approval often lose themselves in the process. They change their opinions to fit the crowd. They suppress their true thoughts. They avoid conflict at all costs. They say yes when they want to say no. They sacrifice authenticity in exchange for acceptance. Ironically, the more approval they seek, the less respect they often receive. This is because respect and approval are not the same thing. Approval is about being liked. Respect is about being valued. Someone may like you because you always agree with them. Someone may like you because you never challenge them. Someone may like you because you constantly accommodate their wishes. But respect operates differently. Respect grows when people recognize strength, integrity, self-respect, and authenticity. And these qualities become difficult to maintain when your primary goal is pleasing everyone. This is known as the approval trap. The approval trap occurs when your self-worth becomes dependent on how other people respond to you. Instead of asking, "Do I respect this decision?" you ask, "Will people approve of this decision?" Instead of asking, "Is this aligned with my values?" you ask, "What will everyone think?" Over time, this mindset becomes exhausting because people are impossible to satisfy consistently. Every person has different expectations, different preferences, different opinions, different standards. Trying to please everyone is like trying to hit a moving target that never stops moving. No matter what you do, someone will disagree, someone will criticize, someone will misunderstand, someone will disapprove. The moment you accept this reality, your life becomes much easier because you stop chasing something that can never truly be achieved. One of the biggest reasons people fall into the approval trap is fear. More specifically, the fear of rejection. Human beings naturally desire connection and belonging. For thousands of years, being accepted by a group increased the chances of survival. As a result, the brain still treats social rejection as a significant threat. This is why criticism feels uncomfortable, why judgment feels painful, why disapproval can create anxiety. The brain interprets rejection as danger. But there is an important distinction many people never learn. Discomfort is not danger. Being disliked is uncomfortable. Being criticized is uncomfortable. Being misunderstood is uncomfortable. But these experiences are rarely dangerous. Yet many people organize their entire lives around avoiding them. They avoid speaking honestly. They avoid expressing opinions. They avoid taking risks. They avoid setting boundaries. They avoid being themselves, all because they fear rejection. The cost of this fear is enormous. Every time you abandon your authenticity to gain approval, you send yourself a powerful message. The message says, "My true self is not enough." Over time, this belief weakens confidence, because confidence cannot grow in an environment where authenticity is constantly suppressed. This is one reason people-pleasing destroys respect. People-pleasing often appears kind on the surface. The people-pleaser wants everyone to be happy. They want harmony. They want acceptance. They want to avoid conflict. But beneath the behavior often exists something deeper: fear. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of being disliked. Fear of rejection. As a result, people-pleasers often ignore their own needs. They sacrifice their own priorities. They tolerate behavior they should not tolerate. They overextend themselves. And they continuously place other people's comfort above their own well-being. Over time, this creates resentment, exhaustion, and a loss of self-respect. The problem is not kindness. Kindness is valuable. The problem is abandoning yourself in order to be liked. Mentally strong people understand that kindness and self-respect can coexist. You can be compassionate without being a doormat. You can be respectful without being submissive. You can be considerate without sacrificing your identity. This balance creates emotional independence. Emotional independence is one of the most attractive and respected qualities a person can possess. It means your emotional state is no longer completely dependent on other people's opinions. Praise feels good, but you do not require it. Criticism may sting, but it does not define you. Approval is appreciated, but it is not necessary for your self-worth. This creates tremendous freedom. Imagine how much energy people waste worrying about what others think. They replay conversations, analyze social interactions, seek reassurance, second-guess decisions, and constantly monitor how they are being perceived. Emotionally independent people spend far less energy doing this, because they understand a powerful truth. You cannot control what other people think. No matter how carefully you behave, no matter how hard you try, someone will always have an opinion. The moment you stop trying to control those opinions is the moment you begin reclaiming your freedom. This shift naturally leads to authenticity. Authenticity over acceptance. This is where real confidence begins. Authenticity means showing up as your true self, not the version designed to impress others, not the version designed to avoid criticism, not the version created to gain approval. Your actual self, your real beliefs, your real values, your real personality. This does not mean becoming rude or insensitive. It means being honest about who you are. People often assume authenticity will cause rejection. Sometimes it does, but it also creates something far more valuable: genuine respect. Because people trust authenticity, they may not always agree with it, but they recognize it, and recognition creates influence. Think about the individuals you admire most. Chances are they possess strong convictions. They know who they are. They are not constantly changing to fit every environment. They remain consistent, and that consistency creates trust. Authenticity also requires respecting your own values. Values are the principles that guide your life. They determine what matters, what is acceptable, what is worth pursuing, what is worth protecting. Many people know their values in theory, but abandon them under pressure. They compromise integrity for approval. They sacrifice principles for popularity. They betray themselves to avoid criticism. Every time this happens, self-respect weakens, because deep down, you know when you are not living according to your standards. Respected individuals understand that values are not suggestions, they are commitments. And commitments create character. Character creates trust, and trust creates respect. This is why respecting your own values matters so much. It strengthens your relationship with yourself, and the stronger that relationship becomes, the less dependent you become on external validation. Eventually, all of these lessons lead to something incredibly powerful: personal freedom. Most people believe freedom comes from money, status, success, or influence. Those things can certainly provide opportunities, but true freedom begins internally. It begins when you no longer need everyone to approve of you. It begins when criticism stops controlling your choices. It begins when fear of rejection no longer dictates your behavior. It begins when your self-worth comes from within rather than from public opinion. This type of freedom changes everything. You speak more honestly. You set stronger boundaries. You make better decisions. You pursue meaningful goals. You live according to your values. And most importantly, you stop abandoning yourself to gain acceptance. Because the truth is simple. You can spend your entire life trying to be liked by everyone, or you can spend your life becoming someone you genuinely respect. The first path leads to anxiety. The second path leads to freedom. And freedom is one of the most respected qualities a person can possess. The moment you stop seeking approval from everyone is the moment you begin developing real confidence. Because true confidence is not knowing everyone likes you. True confidence is being comfortable even when they do not. And that confidence becomes the foundation of lasting respect, influence, and personal power. Chapter 3. Develop calm, unshakable confidence. Confidence is one of the most misunderstood qualities in the world. Many people assume confidence is something you are born with. They believe confident individuals simply possess a special personality trait that others lack. They see someone speaking boldly, leading naturally, or remaining calm under pressure, and assume confidence comes effortlessly to them. But true confidence is not a gift, it is a skill. And like every skill, it can be developed. The problem is that many people confuse confidence with arrogance. They assume confidence means believing you are better than others. They assume confidence means dominating conversations. They assume confidence means constantly proving your worth. In reality, genuine confidence is much quieter. It does not need to announce itself. It does not seek constant validation. It does not depend on being the smartest person in the room. True confidence is simply trust in yourself. It is the belief that you can handle challenges, learn from mistakes, and remain steady when life becomes difficult. This is confidence without arrogance. Arrogance comes from insecurity disguised as superiority. An arrogant person constantly needs recognition. They need to appear important. They need others to admire them. Their confidence depends on external reactions. True confidence operates differently. A genuinely confident person does not need to prove their value because they already understand it. They do not enter every conversation trying to win. They do not compete for attention. They do not feel threatened by other people's success because their self-worth is secure. This creates a powerful sense of calm, and calmness is one of the strongest signals of confidence. Think about the people who command the most respect. Often, they are not the loudest. They are not the most dramatic. They are not the most aggressive. Instead, they possess a quiet certainty, a sense of stability, a calm presence that communicates strength without saying a word. This becomes especially important during pressure. Anyone can appear confident when life is easy. The true test comes when things go wrong, when criticism appears, when uncertainty increases, when challenges arise. This is where emotional control becomes essential. Emotional control under pressure is one of the defining traits of highly respected individuals. Most people allow emotions to dictate behavior. When they become angry, they react. When they become afraid, they retreat. When they become anxious, they panic. As a result, circumstances constantly control their emotional state. Confident people operate differently. They experience emotions just like everyone else. They feel stress, fear, frustration, disappointment. The difference is that they do not surrender control to those emotions. They pause, they think, then they respond intentionally. Imagine two people receiving harsh criticism. One immediately becomes defensive. Their emotions take over. Their voice changes. Their judgment becomes clouded. The other remains composed. They listen. Evaluate the feedback. Take what is useful, ignore what is not, and continue moving forward. Which person appears more confident? The answer is obvious. Confidence is often revealed through composure. The ability to remain calm when emotions rise creates tremendous influence. People naturally trust individuals who remain steady during difficult situations, because emotional stability communicates strength. Another major component of confidence involves something many people overlook: body language and presence. Before you say a single word, people are already forming impressions. They notice how you stand, how you walk, how you make eye contact, how you carry yourself. Your body language communicates information long before your voice does. An insecure person often tries to become invisible. They avoid eye contact. They minimize themselves physically. They hesitate. They appear uncertain. A confident person communicates differently. Their posture is strong. Their movements are deliberate. Their eye contact is comfortable. Their presence feels grounded. This does not require perfection. It requires awareness. Small adjustments can create powerful changes. Stand tall. Keep your shoulders relaxed. Make eye contact without staring. Move with purpose rather than hesitation. These simple habits influence not only how others see you, but also how you see yourself. Because confidence is not only expressed through the body, it is reinforced by the body. The way you carry yourself influences the way you think, and the way you think influences the way you carry yourself. Together, they create presence. Presence is difficult to define, but easy to recognize. It is the ability to fully occupy a moment, to be engaged, focused, grounded, present. People with strong presence are not constantly distracted by what others think. They are not trapped in self-consciousness. They are paying attention to what is happening around them. This creates a natural sense of authority. Presence is powerful because attention is powerful. When you are fully present, people feel it and they respond to it. Another way confidence reveals itself is through communication. Speaking with certainty. Many people weaken their message before they even finish speaking. They constantly apologize, over-explain, second-guess themselves, or add unnecessary qualifiers to every statement. Their language communicates doubt, and doubt reduces influence. This does not mean pretending to know everything. It means expressing yourself clearly. Confident communicators understand that certainty is not about perfection. It is about conviction. They share ideas without excessive hesitation. They express opinions without immediately seeking approval. They communicate directly and respectfully. This creates trust. People are naturally drawn to those who speak with clarity, because clarity communicates belief, and belief communicates confidence. Of course, confidence is tested most heavily when criticism appears. Handling criticism confidently is one of the greatest signs of emotional maturity. Many people view criticism as a threat. The moment someone questions them, they become defensive. They argue, they justify, they attack. But confident people recognize something important. Criticism is information, not identity. Some criticism contains valuable lessons. Some criticism contains nothing useful at all. The key is learning the difference. When criticism is constructive, learn from it. When criticism is destructive, release it. You do not need to carry every opinion people offer. The ability to remain calm during criticism demonstrates tremendous self-confidence, because it shows that your self-worth is not dependent on constant approval. You can listen without collapsing, learn without becoming defensive, improve without feeling inferior. This mindset creates mental toughness. Mental toughness is not about becoming emotionless. It is not about pretending difficulties do not exist. Mental toughness is the ability to continue moving forward despite discomfort. It is the ability to remain committed when things become difficult, to stay focused when distractions appear, to stay composed when pressure increases. Every confident person develops mental toughness through experience, not because they avoid challenges, because they face them. Every difficult conversation builds toughness. Every setback builds toughness. Every moment of uncertainty builds toughness. Over time, these experiences create resilience. The individual begins trusting themselves more deeply, and self-trust is one of the strongest sources of confidence. Ultimately, all of these qualities lead to one powerful outcome: becoming emotionally grounded. An emotionally grounded person is not easily shaken by circumstances. They do not rise and fall with every opinion. They do not allow every setback to define them. They remain connected to their values, their identity, their principles, their purpose. This creates stability, and stability creates confidence, because when your confidence comes from external circumstances, it remains fragile. But when it comes from self-respect, emotional control, resilience and self-trust, it becomes far more durable. Life will always contain uncertainty. Challenges will continue appearing. People will continue judging, criticizing, disagreeing, and misunderstanding. But none of those things need to control your confidence. Because true confidence is not the belief that nothing will go wrong. It is the belief that you can handle whatever goes wrong. That belief creates calmness. That calmness creates strength, and that strength creates the kind of unshakable confidence that earns respect wherever you go, not because you demand it, but because you naturally embody it. Chapter 4. Speak less, say more. One of the most surprising truths about influence is that the people who command the most attention are often the people who speak the least. Most people assume respect comes from talking more, explaining more, proving more, defending more, convincing more. But in reality, excessive talking often weakens authority rather than strengthening it. Think about the most respected individuals you have encountered. Whether they were leaders, mentors, executives, coaches, or highly confident people, they usually shared one common trait. They were deliberate with their words. They did not speak simply to fill silence. They did not feel compelled to comment on everything. They did not constantly seek attention. When they spoke, people listened, because their words carried weight. One reason their words carried weight is because they understood the power of thoughtful communication. Thoughtful communication begins with intention. Most conversations are filled with automatic reactions. People speak before they think. They interrupt. They over-explain. They say whatever comes to mind. As a result, much of what they communicate lacks impact. Thoughtful communicators operate differently. Before speaking, they consider their words. They ask themselves, is this necessary? Is this useful? Does this add value? This brief moment of awareness transforms communication. Instead of speaking impulsively, they speak purposefully. And purpose creates influence. The truth is that people rarely remember every word you say, but they remember how your words made them feel. They remember clarity, confidence, wisdom, presence. Thoughtful communication creates these experiences because it values quality over quantity. This naturally leads to a skill many people fear: silence. Why silence creates authority? Silence makes many people uncomfortable. The moment a pause appears in conversation, they rush to fill it. They begin explaining, justifying, talking unnecessarily. Anything to avoid the discomfort of silence. Confident people do the opposite. They understand that silence is not weakness. Silence is power. Silence communicates self-control. It demonstrates confidence. It shows that you are comfortable without constant validation. Imagine two people in a discussion. One person speaks continuously, the other pauses before responding, listens carefully, then speaks calmly and clearly. Which person appears more confident? Usually the second, because confidence does not feel rushed. It feels composed. Silence creates space, and space creates authority. Many successful negotiators understand this principle. After making an important statement, they remain silent. They resist the urge to explain further. They allow the words to stand on their own. The silence creates pressure. It creates attention. It creates significance. The more comfortable you become with silence, the more powerful your communication becomes. This does not mean refusing to speak. It means learning when not to speak, knowing when to pause, knowing when to listen, knowing when words are unnecessary. This brings us to one of the most underrated leadership skills in existence: listening. Most people listen to reply. Few people listen to understand. While another person is speaking, many individuals are already preparing their response. They are waiting for their turn, waiting to share their opinion, waiting to prove a point. As a result, they miss important information. Great leaders listen differently. They become fully present. They focus completely on the speaker. They ask questions. They seek understanding before offering solutions. This creates trust, because everyone wants to feel heard. When people feel genuinely heard, they naturally feel respected. And respect creates influence. Listening is powerful because it provides information. The person who listens learns. The person who constantly talks often misses opportunities to learn. This is why listening is a leadership skill. Leaders do not need to dominate every conversation. They need to understand people. They need to gather information. They need to recognize emotions, motivations, concerns, and opportunities. All of these become visible when you listen carefully. In many situations, listening creates more influence than speaking, because people trust those who understand them. Another communication habit that weakens authority is over-explaining. Avoiding unnecessary explanations is essential if you want to command respect. Many people feel compelled to justify every decision they make, every boundary they set, every opinion they express, every action they take. Why? Because they fear disapproval. They want everyone to understand, everyone to agree, everyone to approve, but this often has the opposite effect. Excessive explanation communicates uncertainty. It suggests that you do not fully trust your own decisions. Confident individuals understand something important. Not everyone requires an explanation, and not everyone deserves one. Sometimes a simple answer is enough. Sometimes no is enough. Sometimes a decision can stand on its own. This does not mean becoming rude. It means becoming comfortable with your choices. The more confident you become, the less need you feel to constantly defend yourself. You stop seeking permission. You stop seeking validation. You stop trying to convince everyone. Instead, you communicate clearly and move forward. Speaking with intention becomes much easier when you stop trying to impress people. Many individuals enter conversations focused on how they will be perceived. They want to sound intelligent, interesting, important. As a result, they often lose sight of the conversation itself. Intentional communicators focus on contribution. They ask, what value can I add? What point truly matters? How can I communicate this clearly? This mindset creates effectiveness. Every word serves a purpose. Every statement has direction. Every conversation becomes more meaningful. People naturally pay attention to those who speak with intention, because intentional communication feels different. It feels focused, grounded, confident. Clarity is another critical element of influence. Clarity and influence are deeply connected. Confused communication creates confusion. Clear communication creates trust. Many people hide behind complicated language, long explanations, endless details. But complexity is not intelligence. Clarity is intelligence. The most influential communicators often express complex ideas in simple ways. They make understanding easy. Their message becomes memorable. Their ideas become actionable, and their influence grows. When people understand you clearly, they trust you more easily. And trust is one of the foundations of respect. Ultimately, all of these principles lead to one powerful outcome: commanding attention naturally. Many people try to force attention. They become louder, more dramatic, more aggressive. They demand to be noticed. But true influence rarely works this way. The people who command attention naturally possess something deeper: presence, confidence, clarity, purpose. They do not chase attention. Their behavior attracts it. They speak when they have something meaningful to say. They listen carefully. They remain comfortable with silence. They communicate clearly. They trust their own voice. As a result, people pay attention, not because attention was demanded, because attention was earned. Remember, respect is not created by speaking the most. It is created by communicating the most value. The strongest communicators understand that words are powerful, and because words are powerful, they use them carefully. They speak less, but when they speak, people listen. And that is one of the most powerful forms of influence a person can possess. Chapter 5. Set boundaries without guilt. One of the clearest signs of self-respect is the ability to set boundaries. Yet for many people, boundaries feel uncomfortable. They fear disappointing others. They fear conflict. They fear being perceived as selfish, difficult, or unkind. As a result, they say yes when they want to say no. They tolerate behavior they should not tolerate. They allow people to consume their time, energy, and attention without limits. Over time, this creates frustration, resentment, exhaustion, and perhaps most importantly, it weakens self-respect. The truth is simple. People will often treat you according to the standards you establish. If you allow constant disrespect, people learn that disrespect is acceptable. If you allow others to repeatedly cross your boundaries, they learn that boundaries do not exist. This is why boundaries create respect. Boundaries communicate value. They communicate that your time matters, your energy matters, your priorities matter, your well-being matters. When healthy boundaries are present, relationships become clearer, expectations become healthier, respect becomes easier to maintain. Many people mistakenly believe boundaries push people away. In reality, healthy boundaries often improve relationships because clear expectations reduce confusion, they reduce resentment, and they create mutual respect. The strongest relationships are rarely those without boundaries. They are the ones with boundaries that are understood and respected. One of the most important boundary skills is learning to say no. For some people, this feels almost impossible. They have spent years associating no with guilt. Every refusal feels selfish. Every boundary feels uncomfortable. Every act of self-protection feels wrong. But saying yes to everything eventually becomes destructive. Every unnecessary yes is often a hidden no. A no to your time, a no to your goals, a no to your peace, a no to your priorities. Imagine agreeing to every request that comes your way, every favor, every invitation, every responsibility, every demand. Eventually, your schedule becomes controlled by other people rather than by your own values. This is why saying no confidently is such a powerful skill. Confident people understand that every decision involves trade-offs. Time is limited, energy is limited, attention is limited. Therefore, not every opportunity deserves a yes. Not every request deserves compliance. Not every expectation deserves fulfillment. A simple, respectful no is often healthier than a resentful yes. The challenge is that many people over-explain when setting boundaries. They feel compelled to justify every decision, to provide endless reasons, to gain permission for protecting themselves. But healthy boundaries do not require excessive explanation. You do not need a courtroom defense for every personal decision. Sometimes a calm and respectful no is enough. Sometimes protecting your peace is explanation enough. This becomes especially important when protecting your time and energy. Many people guard their money more carefully than their energy. Yet energy is often far more valuable. Money can be earned again. Time cannot. Once a day passes, it never returns. Once energy is drained, recovery takes time. This is why mentally strong individuals become selective about where their energy goes. They understand that every conversation, commitment, responsibility, and relationship requires emotional investment. Not everything deserves equal access to that investment. Some activities create energy, others drain it. Some people inspire growth, others create stress. Some commitments align with purpose, others create distraction. Protecting your time and energy requires intentional choices. It requires recognizing that your resources are limited, and limited resources must be invested wisely. This idea is deeply connected to self-worth, because boundaries are often a reflection of how much value you place on yourself. People who struggle with self-worth frequently struggle with boundaries. They fear upsetting others. They fear losing approval. They fear rejection. As a result, they tolerate situations that violate their values and well-being. Deep down, they believe keeping others happy is more important than protecting themselves. But self-worth changes this equation. When you genuinely value yourself, you begin recognizing that your needs matter too. Your goals matter. Your health matters. Your peace matters. This does not mean becoming selfish. It means acknowledging your own importance. The healthiest people understand that caring for others and respecting yourself can coexist. You do not need to choose one or the other. You can be generous without being exploited, kind without being manipulated, supportive without sacrificing your well-being. Of course, setting boundaries often creates another challenge: pushback. Not everyone will like your boundaries. In fact, some people may actively resist them. This is especially true if they benefited from the absence of boundaries in the past. Imagine someone who has always had unlimited access to your time, unlimited access to your attention, unlimited access to your emotional energy. The moment you establish limits, they may become uncomfortable, not because the boundary is wrong, because the dynamic has changed. Many people interpret this resistance as evidence that they should remove the boundary, but that is usually a mistake. Healthy boundaries often reveal who genuinely respects you. People who value you will eventually adjust. People who only valued access to your resources may resist. Either way, the boundary provides clarity. Handling pushback requires emotional maturity. Emotional maturity means being willing to disappoint others when necessary, not intentionally, not carelessly, but when protecting your values requires it. Immature people often prioritize temporary approval over long-term well-being. Emotionally mature people understand that discomfort is sometimes necessary. They understand that conflict is not always harmful. They understand that being respected is often more important than being liked. This maturity allows them to remain calm when others disagree. They do not panic. They do not immediately retreat. They do not abandon their standards. Instead, they remain respectful and firm. This combination creates strength. One of the greatest benefits of boundaries is that they help maintain personal standards. Every person has standards, whether they consciously recognize them or not. Standards determine what behavior is acceptable, what treatment is acceptable, what expectations are acceptable. The problem is that many people never enforce their standards. They know what they deserve, but they tolerate less. They know what is healthy, but they accept unhealthy alternatives. Over time, this weakens confidence, because every time you betray your own standards, self-respect suffers. Boundaries are how standards become reality. They transform values into action. They transform expectations into behavior. They transform self-respect into visible choices. Without boundaries, standards remain wishes. With boundaries, standards become principles. And principles create respect. Ultimately, setting boundaries without guilt is not about controlling other people. It is about honoring yourself. It is about recognizing that your time, energy, values, and well-being deserve protection. It is about understanding that saying no does not make you selfish. It makes you intentional. It is about developing the courage to maintain your standards, even when others disagree. Because the people who earn the most respect are rarely those who please everyone. They are the people who know their value, protect their peace, and remain true to their principles. And the moment you stop feeling guilty for respecting yourself is the moment others begin respecting you more as well. Chapter 6. Control your emotions. Control the room. One of the greatest misconceptions about power is that it comes from controlling other people. Many people spend years trying to influence, persuade, impress, or dominate those around them. They believe leadership is about authority. They believe confidence is about being louder. They believe influence comes from forcing people to agree with them. But true power operates differently. The most influential people in any room are often the ones who have mastered themselves. They control their emotions. They manage their reactions. They remain calm under pressure. They maintain clarity during conflict. And because they control themselves, they naturally influence others. This is why emotional intelligence has become one of the most valuable skills in modern life. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, manage, and use emotions effectively. It involves self-awareness, self-control, empathy, social awareness, and emotional regulation. People with high emotional intelligence understand something that many people never learn. Emotions are powerful servants but dangerous masters. When emotions control behavior, mistakes become inevitable. When emotions are managed wisely, influence becomes possible. Think about how many problems begin with emotional reactions. A relationship ends because of words spoken in anger. An opportunity disappears because fear prevented action. A conflict escalates because pride refused to listen. A career suffers because frustration controlled behavior. In each situation, the problem was not the emotion itself. The problem was allowing the emotion to take control. This is why one of the most important distinctions in life is learning the difference between reacting and responding. Most people react. Something happens, an emotion appears, and behavior immediately follows. There is no pause, no reflection, no evaluation, only reaction. Someone criticizes them, they become defensive. Someone disagrees, they become angry. Someone challenges them, they become insecure. The entire process happens automatically. Responding is different. Responding requires awareness. It requires emotional control. It requires the ability to create space between an event and your behavior. When emotionally intelligent people experience strong emotions, they do not immediately surrender to them. They pause, they observe, they think, then they choose a response. This small difference creates enormous results. A reaction is driven by emotion, a response is guided by intention, and intention creates influence. People naturally trust those who remain composed during difficult situations, because composure communicates strength. This becomes especially important during conflict. Most people lose influence the moment conflict begins. Their emotions take over, their voice changes, their body language shifts, their focus narrows. Winning becomes more important than understanding. As a result, the conflict escalates. But emotionally intelligent individuals understand that staying calm during conflict is a competitive advantage. They know that anger clouds judgment, defensiveness blocks communication, and emotional reactivity weakens credibility. This does not mean they avoid difficult conversations. It means they approach them differently. They listen carefully. They focus on facts rather than assumptions. They remain respectful even when others are not. And because they remain calm, they often gain more influence while others lose it. Imagine two people in an argument. One becomes louder and more emotional. The other remains calm and composed. Which person appears stronger? Which person appears more confident? Which person appears more trustworthy? The answer is obvious. Calmness often wins because calmness communicates control, and control creates authority. Another essential skill is learning to manage emotional triggers. Everyone has triggers. Certain comments, certain situations, certain behaviors, certain criticisms. These triggers activate strong emotional reactions. The challenge is not eliminating triggers. The challenge is understanding them. Emotionally mature individuals pay attention to what affects them. They ask, why did that upset me? What belief was challenged? What insecurity was activated? What can I learn from this reaction? These questions create self-awareness, and self-awareness creates freedom. Without awareness, triggers control behavior. With awareness, triggers become opportunities for growth. Many people spend years blaming external circumstances for their emotional reactions, but emotional intelligence requires personal responsibility. It requires recognizing that while you cannot control every event, you can learn to control your response. This shift changes everything, because the moment you stop blaming the world for your emotions is the moment you begin mastering them. This mastery creates confidence under pressure. Many people think confidence means feeling fearless. In reality, confidence often means remaining composed despite fear. Pressure reveals this difference. Anyone can appear confident when circumstances are easy. The true test occurs during uncertainty, when stakes are high, when outcomes matter, when mistakes are possible. Under pressure, emotionally intelligent individuals remain grounded. They focus on what they can control. They trust their preparation, they regulate their emotions, and they continue moving forward. This does not eliminate fear. It prevents fear from becoming the decision maker. Confidence grows because people learn something important. They learn that emotions do not have to control actions. They learn that discomfort is survivable. They learn that challenges can be handled, and every experience strengthens self-trust. This naturally leads to emotional leadership. Emotional leadership is the ability to influence the emotional climate around you. Every person affects the environment they enter. Some people bring chaos, some bring negativity, some bring anxiety, others bring calmness, clarity, confidence, stability. The strongest leaders understand that emotions are contagious. If they panic, others panic. If they remain calm, others become calmer. If they remain focused, others become more focused. This is why emotional leadership begins with self-leadership. Before you can influence others, you must influence yourself. Before you can inspire confidence, you must develop confidence. Before you can create stability, you must become stable. People do not follow words, they follow behavior, and behavior is shaped by emotional control. Ultimately, all of these skills contribute to psychological strength. Psychological strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to remain effective despite emotion. It is the ability to think clearly during pressure, to remain calm during conflict, to stay grounded during uncertainty, to continue acting according to values rather than temporary feelings. Psychological strength allows you to remain steady when circumstances become unstable, and in today's world, that ability is incredibly rare. The truth is that controlling your emotions is not about suppressing them. It is not about becoming cold or detached. It is about understanding them, managing them, learning from them, and refusing to become controlled by them. Because when emotions control you, circumstances control you. But when you control your emotions, you control your responses, you control your decisions, you control your presence. And ultimately, you control the energy you bring into every room you enter. That is why emotional intelligence creates influence. That is why composure creates authority. And that is why the person who masters their emotions often becomes the person who commands the most respect. Not through force, not through intimidation, but through calm, confident, and unwavering self-control. Chapter 7. Build presence that people notice. Some people walk into a room and immediately attract attention. They do not demand it. They do not chase it. They do not dominate conversations or seek the spotlight. Yet people notice them. People listen when they speak. People respect them before they say a single word. This quality is often called presence. And while many assume presence is something people are born with, the truth is that presence is largely a skill. It is a combination of confidence, awareness, body language, emotional control, and self-respect. The good news is that it can be developed. Presence begins long before you introduce yourself, long before you speak, long before people learn your name. It begins with first impressions. Whether we like it or not, people form impressions quickly. Within moments of meeting someone, they begin making assumptions. They notice posture, facial expressions, energy, movement, eye contact, confidence. While first impressions are not always accurate, They are powerful. This means that the way you present yourself matters, not because appearance is everything, but because people often see your behavior before they understand your character. The goal is not to impress people. The goal is to communicate confidence, self-respect, and authenticity from the very beginning. One of the strongest tools for doing this is body language. Body language mastery can dramatically change how people perceive you. Many individuals unintentionally communicate insecurity through their physical behavior. They avoid eye contact. They constantly fidget. They shrink their posture. They move nervously. They appear uncomfortable in their own presence. None of these behaviors make them less valuable, but they often create the appearance of uncertainty. Confident people tend to communicate differently. Their posture is upright. Their movements are deliberate. Their gestures are controlled. They occupy space comfortably. They do not appear desperate for approval. They appear comfortable with themselves. This is important because people often trust what they see before they trust what they hear. Body language acts as a silent form of communication. It tells others how you feel about yourself, and often they respond accordingly. One of the most powerful aspects of body language is eye contact. Eye contact and posture are two of the strongest indicators of confidence. When people avoid eye contact, it can signal nervousness, insecurity, or discomfort. When people maintain calm and natural eye contact, it communicates confidence and engagement. The key is balance. Confident eye contact is neither avoidance nor staring. It is relaxed attention. It communicates, I am comfortable being here. I am paying attention. I respect myself and I respect you. Posture works the same way. When people stand tall, keep their shoulders relaxed, and carry themselves with intention, they immediately appear more confident. Interestingly, posture does not only affect how others see you, it affects how you see yourself. The body and mind constantly influence each other. Stand with confidence, and your mind begins feeling more confident. Carry yourself with strength, and your emotional state often follows. This connection explains why nonverbal confidence is so powerful. Confidence is communicated long before words enter the conversation. The way you walk into a room, the way you sit, the way you listen, the way you respond. All of these behaviors send messages. People may not consciously notice every detail, but they feel the overall impression. This is why nonverbal communication often carries more influence than verbal communication. Words matter, but presence amplifies words. A confident message delivered with uncertainty loses power. A simple message delivered with confidence gains power. Presence helps bridge that gap. Another important element of presence is energy. Every person brings a certain energy into a room. Some people bring stress, some bring negativity, some bring insecurity, others bring calmness, optimism, confidence, and stability. People naturally gravitate toward those who make them feel better rather than worse. This is where charisma begins. Many people think charisma is about being charming or entertaining, but true charisma often comes from emotional energy. It comes from making others feel comfortable, valued, seen, heard. People with charisma are usually present, interested, engaged. They are not trapped inside their own insecurities. They focus outward rather than inward. As a result, others enjoy being around them. Confidence contributes to charisma, but genuine interest in people often contributes even more. One of the most powerful forms of presence is quiet authority. Quiet authority is confidence without the need for attention. It is strength without arrogance. It is leadership without domination. People with quiet authority do not constantly prove themselves. They do not compete for every conversation. They do not seek validation from every interaction. They remain calm, composed, grounded. And because they are comfortable with themselves, others become comfortable with them as well. Quiet authority creates respect because it communicates certainty. Not certainty about everything, but certainty about who you are. In a world where many people are desperately trying to be noticed, quiet confidence stands out. It feels rare. it feels authentic, it feels trustworthy. Ultimately, all of these qualities lead to one outcome: commanding respect naturally. Many people attempt to force respect. They become louder, more aggressive, more controlling. But respect gained through force is temporary. True respect is earned, and it is often earned through presence. When people see confidence, they respond differently. When they see emotional stability, they respond differently. When they see self-respect, they respond differently. Presence communicates all of these qualities without needing words. The goal is not to become someone else. The goal is to become more fully yourself, to stand confidently, speak clearly, listen attentively, carry yourself with self-respect, and remain grounded regardless of circumstances. Because presence is not about demanding attention, it is about becoming the kind of person whose confidence, energy, and character naturally attract it. And when that happens, respect follows naturally. Chapter 8. Earn trust before seeking influence. Many people want influence. They want others to listen to them, follow them, respect them, support their ideas, value their opinions. But they often overlook a fundamental truth. Influence is built on trust. 12. Without trust, influence is temporary. Without trust, respect becomes fragile. Without trust, even the most persuasive words eventually lose their power. This is why trust is the foundation of respect. Think about the people you respect most. Perhaps it is a mentor, a leader, a teacher, a friend, a family member, someone whose presence carries weight. When you look closely, you will often discover the same reason behind your respect. You trust them. You trust their intentions. You trust their character. You trust their actions. And because trust exists, influence naturally follows. People rarely follow someone they do not trust. They may listen temporarily. They may comply for a short period. But lasting influence requires credibility, and credibility begins with trust. One of the fastest ways to build trust is through integrity. Integrity means your actions match your values, your words match your behavior, and your promises match your commitments. Unfortunately, many people live in contradiction. They say one thing and do another. They promote principles they do not practice. They expect standards from others that they refuse to uphold themselves. Over time, people notice these inconsistencies, and trust begins to disappear. Integrity creates the opposite effect. When people consistently see alignment between what you say and what you do, trust grows. Your words become believable. Your advice becomes valuable. Your leadership becomes credible. Integrity is powerful because it creates certainty. People know where you stand. They know what to expect, and predictability creates trust. Closely connected to integrity is consistency. Many individuals behave differently depending on the situation. They act one way around certain people and another way around others. They demonstrate confidence one day and unreliability the next. As a result, people never know what version of them will appear. Trust struggles to grow in uncertainty. Consistency solves this problem. Consistent people show up the same way repeatedly. Their values remain stable. Their character remains stable. Their behavior remains stable. This does not mean they are perfect. It means they are dependable. And dependability is one of the most respected qualities a person can possess. People trust consistency because consistency reduces doubt. When your behavior remains reliable over time, your reputation becomes stronger, and reputation is one of the most valuable assets you will ever build. Another critical component of trust is keeping promises. Many people make promises easily. They promise to call, promise to help, promise to show up, promise to follow through. But promises only have value when they are honored. Every promise you keep strengthens trust. Every promise you break weakens it. This principle applies not only to relationships with others, but also to your relationship with yourself. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, confidence decreases. When you repeatedly keep promises to yourself, confidence grows. The same principle applies externally. People learn who they can depend on. and they learn who they cannot. The individuals who command the most respect are often those whose word carries weight. When they make a commitment, people believe them, not because they speak convincingly, because they have proven themselves consistently over time. Their reputation speaks before they do. This is where reliability becomes essential. Reliability may not seem exciting. It rarely attracts attention. It is not dramatic. But it is incredibly powerful. Reliable people do what they say they will do. They arrive when they say they will arrive. They complete responsibilities they agree to complete. They remain dependable, even when circumstances become difficult. In a world filled with inconsistency, reliability stands out. Many people possess talent. Fewer possess dependability. And when talent and reliability exist together, respect grows rapidly. Reliability reveals character, because character is not defined by what people do when conditions are ideal. Character is revealed when challenges appear, when keeping a commitment becomes inconvenient, when following through requires effort, when doing the right thing becomes difficult. That is when true character becomes visible. People pay attention to these moments, and they remember them. Over time, these moments create long-term credibility. Credibility is not built overnight. It is earned slowly, one action at a time, one promise at a time, one decision at a time. Many people want immediate influence, but lasting influence requires patience. Trust grows through repeated evidence, repeated examples of integrity, repeated examples of reliability, repeated examples of character. Eventually, credibility becomes your reputation, and reputation begins opening doors that force never could. People seek your opinion. They trust your judgment. They respect your leadership, not because you demanded influence, because you earned it. This naturally leads to authentic leadership. Many people believe leadership requires authority, a title, a position, a special status. But authentic leadership begins long before any title is given. Authentic leadership begins with example. People are inspired by behavior more than words. They watch what you do, how you respond, how you treat others, how you handle challenges, how you honor commitments. Authentic leaders do not simply tell others what matters. They demonstrate it. They embody it. Their actions become evidence of their values, and because people trust them, influence develops naturally. This type of leadership does not rely on fear. It does not rely on control. It relies on credibility, and credibility creates lasting respect. Ultimately, trust is what strengthens relationships, whether in friendships, family, business, leadership, or professional life. Strong relationships are built on trust. Without trust, relationships become fragile. With trust, relationships become resilient. Trust creates connection, safety, loyalty, respect, and influence. People naturally gravitate toward those they trust, because trust creates confidence, confidence creates respect, and respect creates opportunity. The truth is simple. Before people follow your ideas, they must trust your character. Before they respect your leadership, they must trust your integrity. Before they value your words, they must trust your actions. That is why influence should never come before trust. Trust must come first. Build integrity, practice consistency, keep your promises, become reliable, protect your reputation, lead through example, and strengthen your character every day. Because when trust becomes your foundation, respect becomes your reputation, and that reputation will carry more influence than any title, status, or position ever could. Chapter 9. Handle disrespect like the top 1%. No matter how confident, successful, or respected you become, there will always be people who criticize you, doubt you, underestimate you, or treat you unfairly. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that you are human. Many people spend their lives trying to avoid criticism and disrespect. They want universal approval. They want everyone to agree with them. They want every interaction to be positive. But that goal is impossible. The most respected leaders, entrepreneurs, athletes, and influential individuals in history have all faced criticism. The difference is not whether criticism appears, the difference is how they respond to it. Average people allow criticism to control their emotions. The top 1% learn how to control their response. When someone criticizes them, they do not immediately become defensive. They do not panic. They do not lose sleep over every opinion. Instead, they evaluate the criticism objectively. They ask a simple question: is there something useful here? If the answer is yes, they learn from it. If the answer is no, they move on. This mindset creates emotional freedom, because not every opinion deserves your attention, and not every criticism deserves your emotional energy. One of the biggest mistakes people make is treating criticism as an attack on their identity. Someone questions an idea, and they feel personally attacked. Someone points out a mistake, and they feel worthless. Someone disagrees, and they interpret it as rejection. Emotionally strong people separate feedback from identity. They understand that making a mistake does not make them a failure. Being criticized does not make them inferior. Being rejected does not make them unworthy. This distinction allows them to remain calm when others become emotional, and calmness is one of the strongest forms of confidence. Of course, criticism is only one challenge. Sometimes the real difficulty comes from dealing with difficult people. Every person eventually encounters individuals who are negative, disrespectful, manipulative, arrogant, or intentionally provocative. These people often seek emotional reactions. They want attention, conflict, control, validation. Many people unknowingly give them exactly what they want. They argue, defend themselves endlessly, become emotionally invested, and lose their peace of mind in the process. Top performers understand a powerful principle: not every battle deserves your participation. Just because someone invites you into conflict does not mean you must accept. Sometimes the strongest response is silence. Sometimes it is walking away. Sometimes it is refusing to engage. The ability to choose your battles wisely is a sign of maturity, because strength is not proving you can win every argument. Strength is knowing which arguments are not worth having. This requires emotional detachment. Emotional detachment is often misunderstood. People assume it means becoming cold or uncaring, but healthy detachment means something entirely different. It means refusing to allow every external event to control your internal state. It means recognizing that other people's opinions belong to them, their emotions belong to them, their behavior belongs to them. You can observe these things without absorbing them. Imagine walking through a storm. You cannot stop the rain, but you can choose whether to carry the storm inside your mind. Many people carry emotional storms for days. One rude comment ruins an entire week. One criticism destroys confidence. One disagreement becomes an obsession. Emotionally detached individuals refuse to surrender that much power. They acknowledge what happened, learn what they can, and continue moving forward. This ability helps maintain composure. Composure is one of the most respected qualities a person can possess. When others lose control, composed individuals remain steady. When emotions rise, they remain calm. When pressure increases, they remain focused. This does not mean they feel nothing. It means they manage what they feel. Anyone can remain calm when circumstances are easy. True composure appears during difficult moments. It appears during conflict, criticism, pressure, uncertainty, and because composure is rare, it attracts respect. People naturally trust those who remain stable under pressure. Maintaining composure also protects something extremely valuable: self-respect. Many people sacrifice self-respect in an attempt to prove themselves. They argue endlessly with people determined to misunderstand them. They tolerate disrespectful treatment. They chase approval from individuals who have already decided not to give it. In doing so, they lose sight of what truly matters. Your self-respect should never depend on another person's opinion. It should come from your character, your values, your actions, your integrity. The moment you begin measuring your worth through someone else's judgment, You hand over your power. Protecting self-respect requires boundaries. It requires emotional discipline, and sometimes it requires walking away, not because you are weak, because you value yourself too much to remain where respect does not exist. One of the most powerful mindset shifts is learning to turn conflict into strength. Most people see conflict as something negative, something to avoid, something to fear, but conflict often reveals opportunities for growth. Every criticism teaches emotional control. Every difficult person teaches patience. Every disagreement teaches communication. Every challenge strengthens resilience. The strongest individuals use adversity as training. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can this teach me?" That question transforms conflict from an obstacle into an opportunity. And every opportunity becomes a chance to become stronger. Over time, this process creates a remarkable quality. You become difficult to intimidate, not because you are aggressive, not because you dominate others, but because your confidence no longer depends on external circumstances. You stop fearing criticism. You stop fearing rejection. You stop fearing disagreement, because you trust yourself. You know who you are. You know your values. You know your worth. And that self-knowledge creates stability. The truth is that intimidation only works when someone can control your emotions, when they can trigger fear, self-doubt, insecurity. The moment you develop emotional control, intimidation loses much of its power, because your confidence comes from within. Ultimately, handling disrespect, like the top 1%, is not about winning every conflict. It is about mastering yourself during conflict. It is about responding instead of reacting, remaining calm instead of becoming emotional, protecting self-respect instead of seeking approval, learning instead of complaining, growing instead of shrinking. Because the strongest people are not those who never face criticism. They are the people who remain confident despite it. They are not those who never encounter difficult people. They are those who refuse to let difficult people control their peace. And they are not those who never experience disrespect. They are those who respond with such composure, confidence, and self-respect that disrespect loses its power entirely. That is what makes them impossible to intimidate. And that is what earns lasting respect. Chapter 10. Become the person people naturally respect. Many people spend their lives chasing respect. They chase recognition. They chase status. They chase approval. They chase influence. They believe respect is something that can be demanded, negotiated, or forced. But the most respected people rarely chase respect at all. They focus on something much more important. They focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally earns it. This is one of the greatest lessons in personal development. Respect is not an achievement. It is a byproduct. It is the result of who you become, the result of your character, your habits, your standards, your actions, and your consistency. People may admire talent, they may notice success, they may celebrate achievement, but lasting respect comes from something deeper. It comes from identity. This is why identity-based confidence is so powerful. Most people build confidence around temporary circumstances, their success, their appearance, their income, their position, their accomplishments. The problem is that all of these things can change. Success rises and falls, money comes and goes, positions change, achievements fade into history. If confidence depends entirely on these things, confidence becomes fragile. Identity-based confidence works differently. It is rooted in who you are rather than what you have. It comes from knowing your values, trusting your character, honoring your commitments, living according to principles. This type of confidence remains stable because it is built on foundations that are not easily shaken. When challenges appear, identity remains. When criticism appears, identity remains. When failure appears, identity remains. The strongest people understand that confidence becomes powerful when it is connected to character. This naturally leads to living by principles. Principles are the standards that guide your behavior. They influence decisions when emotions become strong. They provide direction when situations become difficult. They keep you grounded when success arrives and when adversity appears. Many people live according to convenience. They do what feels easy, what feels comfortable, what gains immediate approval. Principled people operate differently. They do what aligns with their values. Even when it is difficult, even when nobody is watching, even when there is no immediate reward. This consistency creates trust, and trust creates respect. People may disagree with your opinions, they may challenge your decisions, but they respect consistency, because consistency reveals integrity. Living by principles also creates clarity. You stop making decisions based solely on emotions. You stop changing directions every time circumstances change. You develop stability, and stability creates strength. Over time, respect stops becoming something you seek. It becomes part of how you live. Respect as a lifestyle means maintaining high standards every day, not only when people are watching, not only when opportunities are present, not only when recognition is available. Every day, it means respecting your commitments, respecting your time, respecting your health, respecting your values, respecting other people, respecting yourself. The people who earn the greatest respect understand that character is not built in isolated moments. It is built through daily choices, small choices repeated consistently, every promise kept, every challenge faced, every boundary maintained, every act of discipline. These actions gradually shape reputation, and reputation shapes influence. One of the most misunderstood ideas about respect is the belief that leadership requires a title. Many people wait for permission to lead. They wait for a promotion, a position, an official role. Only then do they believe they can influence others. But true leadership begins long before titles appear. Leadership without titles is one of the most powerful forms of influence, because it comes from example, not authority. People naturally follow individuals who demonstrate discipline, integrity, confidence, courage, responsibility. These qualities inspire trust, and trust inspires influence. Think about the most impactful people in your life. Some may have held leadership positions, others may not. What mattered was not the title. What mattered was the example, the way they carried themselves, the way they treated people, the way they responded to challenges. Leadership is ultimately behavior, not status, and the strongest leaders influence through character rather than control. This commitment to growth leads to personal excellence. Personal excellence is not perfection. Perfection is impossible. Personal excellence is the pursuit of becoming better than you were yesterday. It is a commitment to continuous improvement, continuous learning, continuous growth. The people who earn lasting respect never stop developing themselves. They remain curious, open-minded, disciplined. They recognize that growth is a lifelong process. Every experience becomes a lesson. Every challenge becomes an opportunity. Every setback becomes feedback. This mindset keeps them evolving. And people naturally respect individuals who consistently strive for excellence, not because they are perfect, because they are committed. Influence through character becomes the natural outcome of this process. Many people attempt to create influence through image, through appearances, through persuasion, through popularity. But image alone cannot sustain influence. Eventually, character becomes visible. People discover who you really are, and when character matches reputation, influence becomes powerful. Character creates credibility. Credibility creates trust. Trust creates respect, and respect creates influence. This type of influence is different. It does not rely on force. It does not rely on manipulation. It does not rely on fear. It comes from the example you set, the standards you maintain, and the values you live by. This is the kind of influence that lasts. Ultimately, all of these qualities contribute to becoming unforgettable. Most people are remembered for what they achieved, Truly respected people are remembered for who they were, how they treated others, how they handled pressure, how they maintained integrity, how they inspired confidence, how they lived. Long after accomplishments are forgotten, character remains. Long after titles disappear, influence remains. Long after success fades, reputation remains. That is the power of becoming a person people naturally respect, not because you demanded attention, not because you chased approval, not because you sought admiration, but because you built yourself into someone whose character speaks louder than words, someone whose confidence comes from within, someone whose principles guide their actions, someone whose leadership requires no title, someone whose influence comes from integrity, and someone whose presence leaves a lasting impact wherever they go, because the highest level of respect is not something you receive, it is something you become. Conclusion: the respect you seek begins within. As we come to the end of this journey, remember one powerful truth: the respect you seek from the world begins with the respect you give yourself. Many people spend years chasing recognition, approval, and validation from others. They believe that if enough people admire them, accept them, or praise them, they will finally feel confident and worthy. But lasting respect never works that way. True respect starts internally. It begins the moment you decide that your value is not determined by other people's opinions, but by your own character, standards, and actions. Throughout this audiobook, you have learned that confidence is not something you wait for. Confidence grows through action. Every difficult conversation you face, every boundary you set, every promise you keep to yourself, and every challenge you overcome becomes evidence that you can trust yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of real confidence. You have also seen that boundaries are not walls. They are expressions of self-respect. They protect your time, your energy, your values, and your peace of mind. The people who earn the most respect are not those who say yes to everything. They are the people who know what they stand for and are willing to protect it. Emotional control creates authority. Anyone can react. Anyone can lose their temper, become defensive, or allow emotions to take over. But the ability to remain calm under pressure, think clearly during conflict, and respond with intention is what separates strong individuals from reactive ones. Composure is one of the clearest signs of confidence and maturity. Trust and integrity build lasting influence. Titles may create temporary authority, but character creates permanent respect. People remember those who keep their word, honor their commitments, and remain consistent regardless of circumstances. Reputation is built one decision at a time, and every action contributes to the story people tell about you when you are not in the room. Most importantly, remember that approval is temporary, but character is permanent. Trends change, opinions change, circumstances change, but integrity, discipline, self-respect, and personal values remain. The strongest people are not those who are admired by everyone. They are those who remain true to themselves even when approval is absent. Respect is never earned through a single achievement. It is earned through consistent behavior, through the daily choices that reflect who you are, through the standards you maintain when no one is watching, through the courage to be authentic, disciplined, and confident in a world that constantly pressures people to conform. So as you move forward, stop asking, "How can I make people respect me?" Instead ask, "How can I become a person worthy of respect?" Build your confidence, protect your boundaries, control your emotions, live by your principles, lead through your character, and commit yourself to becoming the strongest version of who you are. Because the people who command the most respect are rarely the ones who demand it. They are the ones whose presence, integrity, confidence, and character make respect inevitable. Become that person, and the respect you seek will follow naturally.